Welcome to Ready for the Weekend, episode 14 here on the Play Sports YouTube channel, the show where myself and Kev run through our previews and predictions for this weekend's sporting action. Coming up on this week's show, we have action from boxing, basketball, football and rugby. We hope you enjoy. Okay, so we are getting things started this week with the opening game of the championship schedule, as domestic football is back already. I mean, we're still wrapping up international tournaments and the domestic stuff's back. It's nuts. Anyway, this is between Bournemouth and freshly relegated West Brom, and it's kicking off the night I'm recording this, so I'm only beating this by a couple of hours, so just about qualifies as a preview. Anyway, West Brom dropped back down to the Championship, finishing 19th last season, 13 points off of safety. Bournemouth finished 6th last year, but missed out, losing to Brentford in the playoffs. Two sides that are very much considered in promotion contention, with really not a ton to pick between the two, and neither have been that active. Bournemouth, only two new faces in Leif Davis and Emmanuel Marcondes on a free from Brentford, getting rid of Diego Rico and Jack Wilshere, as well as Espen Begovic. West Brom, more so the change has been upstairs, with a really highly rated manager, Valérien Ismaël, coming in. He managed to take Barnsley into the playoffs last year on next to no money. And he's going to come in and play this sort of super intense, gritty, aggressive football. Very much going to lean into their favour. They've got a stable squad, and I think he's going to get the most out of them. Large number of players left, including the loans of Yokshulu and Diagne, as well as releasing Ivanovic, Austin, Gibbs, Higazi, and now, as of yesterday, in possibly their best player in Pereira has gone off to Saudi Arabia. Only the three new faces in Matt Clark on loan from Brighton, as well as the free transfers of Alex Mowat and Adam Reach. I really like the Mowat signing. He was one of his key men at Barnsley, and is going to sort of help integrate that really high-pressing, intense, in-your-face brand of football that did so well for Barnsley. I think West Brom are probably the stronger team here. Yes, they've had a little more on the outgoings, but I think, freshly relegated, they're going to want to sort of bounce back immediately, and Ismail's really going to want to get the fans on his side early, and I think I'm going to take it just a gritty 1-0 win for West Brom here to get the championship season started.
In the championship, we have West Brom versus Bournemouth, two teams that are high contenders on getting promoted into the Premier League. Bournemouth, pretty decent last season, made the playoffs, but didn't get themselves promoted. They're going to lose players like Jack Wilshere, who are being released, but they're bringing new signings in. We'll see, hope they'll make a difference. West Brom, very poor last season, 19th position. They didn't seem to be very dominant on players now in the Premier League. But with a new manager coming in, new players as well, we'll see how it goes just before the transfer window.
Okay, so next up is something I really wish I'd got to see more of in the Olympic 5-on-5 basketball. The 3v3 stuff was great, and I seem to catch more of that than the actual full version. But it's been a really interesting tournament so far. USA beating Australia heavily in the semi-final. Seem a team that very much grown into the tournament. And, star-studded roster, the likes of Durant and Lillard, coming into their own. They pretty much had to fly out, a lot of these guys, as soon as their domestic season finished, which meant they hadn't met up pretty much at all before the tournament started. So obviously had the slow start with their opening game loss, and have grown into it as the tournament has progressed. I mean, they wiped the floor with the likes of Spain in their own group once the France loss was pushed to one side. And on the opposite end is France, who beat them close game, big upset, and they've rode that wave right the way through the tournament, including a down-to-the-wire 1-point win against Slovenia in the semis. The French, a lot of EuroLeague players, good core of NBA talent. Fournier has been awesome, leading the way for them for scoring. Even still, though, I think the US's overall talents are going to outweigh them, and they're going to take the gold here. Again, I think this is going to be super close, with the French sort of having one over on them, beating them in the opening game. But I think an awful lot of that came down to the fact that the US just hadn't met up until like 2 or 3 days before. It's like, the equivalent of playing Sunday League and just being like, I'll recognise one or two of them, but yeah, we'll see what happens. But eventually, when those guys are really, really good, they're going to gel, and we've seen that by them annihilating the Australians. And I think the US are going to run, it's going to run close, but I'd say less than 5 points, but I'm taking the US here.
In the men's Olympic basketball, we have USA versus France. USA, very, very comfortable win against Australia. Didn't seem to be in much trouble. However, they are going to be playing France in the final, a team that they lost in their group. France just beat Slovenia. Now, it was very, very close near the end, but Slovenia did put a massive effort into it. Will I see France do it again? I would say so, actually. Even though USA were half favourites, I can give France the win again. I really hope they'll actually pull this off. Had a very tough opponent, but again, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how these matches play out.
Okay, so sticking with the Olympics, and Ireland's own Kellie Harrington looks to take home their second gold of the Games tomorrow morning, I think. Not certain. I think it's tomorrow morning. But with these utterly torturous 3 and 4 a.m. starts for stuff, I'm completely thrown. But anyway, it's over the weekend, and it's Ireland's Kellie Harrington against Beatriz Soares Ferreira of Brazil. This is pretty much how everyone presumed this was going to pan out through the tournament in the women's lightweight category. Number 1 seed in Harrington against the number 2 seed in Ferreira. Both have looked really, really good the whole way through this, and everyone sort of presumed they were going to get through. For Harrington, it was a little more difficult. I mean, she came through taking gold in the Olympic qualifiers to qualify, and then got a bye in the first round. And so she went in and beat Kellie from Algeria by unanimous decision, but then had to deal with Sasandi from Thailand, who is quality, and who knocked out the GB athlete Dubois, I think her name is, in the semis in the quarters to face Harrington, and then she edged out a 3-2 win. So she's had a tougher go of it. Ferreira has won every single fight this tournament unanimously. I think it's 3 straight 5-0 decision wins for her. The number 2 seed, just about, possibly could argue she's probably looked the best in the tournament so far. I'm going to lean the same as Kev here, though, I think, and the little bit of bias there, and you'd like to see Ireland come away with more than just the 1 medal from the rowing. So this would be a really cool win for her, and I do, even though my head's leaning Ferreira, I'm going to take Harrington here just from a little bit of bias.
In the Olympic boxing final, we have Harrington versus Ferreira. It's going to be a very, very tough fight. Tough opponent for Harrington. She did very, very well. She's still the favourites to win and get gold. However, Ferreira has been doing pretty, very decent, especially in her last fight. Harrington's is actually very, very good fast punching. I've seen her in semi-final. Even though she won just about 3-2, seemed very comfortable enough to win with that win. I might go for a little bit biased, and hopefully she gets gold in this one. I really, really hope that she gets this. I've been unbiased. I have been with Ireland, especially in the rugby, but for the boxing here, I will have her hopes up, and I hope she wins it.
Okay, so we've covered it this far, so we may as well wrap up the final game of the tournament, and what a final game it's going to be, as the British and Irish Lions have their last tour game against South Africa, with the scores tied at 1 apiece. Lions looking a little worse for wear here, needing to make 6 changes from their 29-7 loss in the second game that tied the whole series up, which will include 3 debutants in Josh Adams, Bundy Aki and Wyn Jones, are some of the changes that are being added into the squad. South Africa, at least 2 changes going to be made, with Faf de Klerk and Pieter-Steph du Toit both ruled out through injury from the absolute war that was Game 2. I mean, hands were being thrown. Their last tour win against South Africa back in 1997, they won 2-1, looking to try and replicate that here, but I just can't see it. This is the very, very end of a long and arduous tour for the Lions that has tested them, and, they've tied things up, but I just think that the togetherness and the grittiness of that South Africa team are going to see them through here. I do think it'll be close. I'm going to say a try or less. I don't think they're by any means going to get blown away here. I mean, there's some big losses for South Africa. Faf de Klerk is a huge miss, and also just from a TV perspective because he's always fun to watch. But I do really think that home advantage, less wear and tear on the South Africans. They've not been playing anywhere near as frequently as the Lions have throughout this tour, and just the gradual decline in fitness and just as a wear and tear. I think the South Africans are taking this by a try or less.
In the Lions tour, we've got the British Lions versus the South African teams. Um, Lions making big changes after their previous thrashing. It hasn't been very well from their last game, but hoping to make a difference. South Africa, very confident, seem to make another change, only 2 changes made. And Lions captain Jones is finally coming on. We're looking forward to this. Hopefully making a big impact for the Lions team. However, even all these changes made, I don't think they'll beat South Africa. I think South Africa will come out victorious at the end. I would say even by 5 points more. South Africa had a pretty decent team, and I don't think they'll actually lose this one.
And we go full circle and we return to domestic football as the Charity Shield match between Leicester and Man City takes place on Sunday, I think. FA Cup winners Leicester taking on Premier League champion City. Unofficial season opener. Rumours are full capacity Wembley for the first time in almost 2 years. Slightly disappointing news in this is that the rumour has circulated that Pep's going to give most of his first choice players a rest through this and keep them fresh for obviously their opening game of the season the following weekend. Could be interesting in a sense it'll give more of an idea who isn't in Pep's immediate plans. Possibility of the Jack Grealish debut, probably not going to happen with as short a time as he will have had, maybe off the bench. Leicester, one of the most active teams this window so far. A couple of really, really impressive signings. I mean, Bertrand on a free, smart business cover at left back, and then the 2 big arrivals in Patson Daka, who is probably going to be the long-term replacement for Jamie Vardy. Explosive, intense, pacey striker. Coming up from Salzburg, so he's going to need that season or so to develop and to get up to speed with the English game, but very smart because they've still got Vardy to rely on. That he's very much just going to be in the wings, possibly playing on the wings at times, but very much has that time to develop behind a seasoned veteran in Vardy, as well as Babakary Samare, who comes in from France, who is a really hotly touted box-to-box midfielder that, again, they've got Tielemans, they've got Ndidi. They just want to add depth at this point, and he's young, he's dynamic, he's going to be a great fit for Leicester. Man City, on the other hand, they brought in Jack Grealish yesterday for 100 million, but up until then, all we had seen come in was Scott Carson on a free. Been very much a season of outgoings for City with Aguero, Angelino, Jack Harrison, among a number of high-profile and lesser high-profile but still sizable sales from the Etihad in the aims of clearing out to possibly make room for the 160, 170 million signing of Harry Kane along with Grealish. But yeah, I think sort of everything that's been said here, I'm leaning Leicester because I think they're just going to want to get the ball rolling this year. Obviously, they've had less players away than City, so they're going to be a little bit fresher. Treat this as more of a kickstart to their season, whereas City are just trying to make sure that people have the legs in them to make next weekend. So yeah, I'm going to take Leicester 2-1 here. I think this is going to be a really bright season for them, and I think they're going to want to get that good feeling started up early.
In the Charity Shield, we got Leicester versus Man City. Very few changes made to Man City. Hopefully they actually sign in players just before the transfer window. Until then, they have to use the players that they have so far. Maybe except from they're playing international. We have to give them a little bit of rest before the season starts. But for Leicester, they're bringing new changes in. Hopefully, a long-term replacement for Jamie Vardy. I still think that Man City will still win this, despite Leicester pretty decent team. Man City might not get over that loss in the Champions League final, and hopefully have a great start into the Premier League. I would say even a 2-0 win for Man City, even with what they have so far. Pretty decent side, especially in the bench. So that's what predict will probably happen.
Okay, so that wraps up episode 14 of Ready for the Weekend. Let us know your predictions below, anything you want us to cover over the next few weeks with all the European football getting kick-started up again. I lead by 1 point as things go, but believe me, with how horrendously I started, it's a matter of weeks before Kev catches and flies past me again. But yeah, until then, see you next time.